the cameras weren't even supposed to be rolling when it happened. The set was quiet, the crew was resetting lights, and most of the cast had gone off to their dressing rooms. But one sneaky backstage assistant caught something that has every love and hip-hop fan losing their minds. Rasheeda Frost and Jasmine Washington. Yes. The same two women whose feud, once defined an entire season, were spotted together, alone, and whispering like old friends. No producers, no Kirk, no cameras, or so they thought. That single clip, leaked just hours after filming wrapped, has set social media on fire. Fans are calling it the episode that changes everything, while insiders are whispering that Mona Scott herself might have staged the moment to reignite the show's most scandalous storyline. It's the kind of twist no one saw coming. Remember, Rasheeda once said she would never, ever forgive Jasmine for sleeping with her husband. She built an entire brand off being the woman who stood tall through humiliation and betrayal. But here she was standing side by side with the very woman who tore her marriage apart. The tension between them was almost too thick to cut. Some claim Rasheeda was confronting Jasmine over a secret she's been hiding from the world. Others believe the two women were actually plotting something together, a private deal, a production power move, or even a joint revenge plan against Kirk himself. The leaked footage, grainy but unmistakable, shows Rasheeda leaning in close, her tone low but intense. Jasmine nods, then laughs, not nervously, but confidently, as if she knew something no one else did. Within seconds, the video cuts off. But it was enough to send Twitter into chaos. "Ain't no way Rasheeda and Jasmine meeting again," one fan tweeted. Another wrote, "This is about to be the messiest season yet, I can feel it." Even celebrity gossip blogs are torn. Was this a reconciliation, or a setup for something darker? Did Mona Scott force them into this moment, or did Rasheeda take matters into her own hands? What's even more shocking is that Kirk was reportedly on set the same day, just one studio over. And according to multiple insiders, he had no idea the two women were meeting behind his back. By the time word reached him, the confrontation was already over, and Rasheeda had vanished from set without saying a word to anyone. Crew members described the atmosphere afterward as electric, awkward, and tense, like everyone knew something major had just gone down but no one dared to speak about it. Now the question burning through every fan group, every forum, every gossip page is simple. What were Rasheeda and Jasmine really doing together? Were they burying the hatchet, or sharpening it for someone new? Stay tuned, because this isn't just another behind-the-scenes moment. This could be the beginning of the biggest twist love and hip-hop has ever seen. The air on set felt different that day. It wasn't loud or chaotic like usual. It was quiet, tense, like something was brewing under the surface. A few crew members whispered near the makeup tables, trying to act normal, but their eyes kept darting toward the corner of the soundstage where Rasheeda had just walked in. She wasn't smiling, she wasn't greeting anyone, her jaw was tight, her phone gripped in her hand. She kept checking the time, almost like she was waiting for someone. And then, without warning, Jasmine Washington stepped in through the side door, the same Jasmine who once shattered Rasheeda's marriage and almost broke her spirit. No one knew she was scheduled to film that day, not even the production assistants. The energy shifted instantly. You could almost hear the collective gasp echo through the room. The women who hadn't spoken in years were suddenly breathing the same air again. Jasmine didn't come in loud or dramatic. She was calm, confident, dressed in a way that said she knew exactly what she was walking into. The tension was so heavy it made the lights above seem hotter. People tried not to stare, but everyone was watching. Mona Scott had been seen earlier that morning whispering with one of the producers. And now everyone was wondering if this was the reason. Was this part of a secret storyline twist? Or did Jasmine show up uninvited? Rasheeda finally lifted her eyes from her phone and locked them on Jasmine. For a long second, neither of them spoke. The silence was thick, uncomfortable. Then, slowly, Rasheeda started walking forward, each step echoing against the concrete floor. Jasmine's lips curled into a small, knowing smile. "You really thought I wouldn't find out?" Rasheeda's voice was low, almost trembling, but her eyes didn't blink. Jasmine tilted her head, pretending confusion. "Find out what? Rasheeda, you act like I came here to start something." Her tone was soft, but it carried that same edge she always had on camera. Part sweet, part venom. The crew had stopped pretending to work. One sound guy whispered, "Is this in the script?" But no one answered. Even the director froze, unsure if he should step in or let it roll. And that's when the whispering started. "I heard Kirk told Mona he wanted Jasmine back for ratings." "Nah, they say Rasheeda knew, but she didn't think Jasmine would show up today." "Girl, This about to be another season 5 all over again. Rasheeda crossed her arms and stared Jasmine down. Don't play dumb with me. I saw the footage. The producers didn't tell me, but I saw it. You think you slick, coming around me acting innocent when you've been plotting. Jasmine let out a small laugh. That kind of laugh that's meant to sting. Plotting. Girl, I'm not the one hiding anything. You sure you want to talk about footage? Because I got some of my own. The room froze. Rasheeda's expression changed instantly. Whatever she thought she knew, Jasmine had just flipped it on her. What footage? Rasheeda's voice cracked slightly. Jasmine stepped closer, lowering her tone so only Rasheeda could hear. Ask your husband. And then she smiled again. That calm, poisonous smile. Rasheeda's body stiffened. The camera operator standing nearby whispered to the director, "Keep rolling." It was the kind of real emotion that producers dream about, raw, unfiltered, unpredictable. Rasheeda turned away, muttering under her breath, trying to hold herself together. She had been through public humiliation before. She'd faced rumors, lies, betrayal, but this felt different. Jasmine wasn't trying to fight her. She was trying to control her. It was psychological, and for the first time, Rasheeda didn't seem sure what was true anymore. The clip that leaked later only showed a fraction of this moment, just Rasheeda's tense expression and Jasmine's smirk. But what happened after the cameras stopped rolling was what really changed everything. Once the crew started clearing out for lunch, Rasheeda stayed behind. She sat on the edge of a prop couch, staring at the floor. Jasmine lingered a few feet away, scrolling her phone like nothing had happened. Finally, Rasheeda spoke again. So what? You came back to destroy me again? Jasmine sighed, sliding her phone into her bag. No. I came back to tell you the truth. You just don't want to hear it. Rasheeda looked up, confused. What truth? Jasmine hesitated, then said quietly, Kirk been lying to both of us. And you gonna find out soon enough? Those words hung in the air like smoke. Rasheeda's face went pale. She wanted to deny it, to scream that Jasmine was lying again. But something about the way Jasmine said it, calm, steady, almost sad, made it hard to ignore. You always got something to say about my husband, Rasheeda said, her voice trembling with anger. You think you know everything, but you don't. Jasmine didn't flinch. Then why he'd been calling me again? Rasheeda shot up from the couch. You lying. Jasmine pulled out her phone, tapped the screen, and showed her call log. One name stood out, highlighted on the screen. Kirk Frost. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m. Just 2 nights ago. The same night Kirk had told Rasheeda he was out handling business. Rasheeda's breath hitched. That don't prove nothing. She whispered. He could have called you for anything. Jasmine looked at her with pity. You still defending him? Huh? After everything. The moment broke something inside Rasheeda. The anger she had buried for years, the hurt, the embarrassment, the betrayal, it all came rushing back. You trying to ruin my marriage again, she said through clenched teeth. Jasmine shook her head slowly. No. He's doing that all by himself. For a second, neither woman spoke. They just stared at each other. Two sides of the same heartbreak. Outside the studio walls, fans were already buzzing online, dissecting the leaked clip and debating what it meant. No one knew that inside that set, a storm was brewing that would soon explode into something even bigger than before. As Jasmine turned to leave, Rasheeda's voice stopped her. If you think you're about to use me for another storyline, you got the wrong one. Jasmine didn't turn around. I don't need a storyline, she said softly. I already got the truth. She walked away, heels clicking against the floor, leaving Rasheeda standing there in silence, shaking with emotion. A few minutes. Later, Kirk arrived, looking annoyed and confused. Where's everybody at? He asked one of the crew members. When someone mentioned that Jasmine had been there, his whole face changed. Wait, what? She was here. Who told her she could come? His voice rose, panic mixing with frustration. The crew member shrugged, avoiding eye contact. I think Mona brought her. Kirk muttered something under his breath and stormed off toward the dressing rooms. Inside, Rasheeda was pacing, her hands trembling. The phone call, the footage, Jasmine's words, it all looped through her head like a nightmare she couldn't wake from. When Kirk finally walked in, she didn't waste a second. Did you call her? She demanded. Kirk froze. What? Don't play dumb with me, she snapped. Did you or did you not call Jasmine 2 nights ago? He hesitated, just long enough to give himself away. Rasheeda's voice broke. You did, didn't you? Babe, it's not what you think. He began, trying to calm her, but she wasn't having it. Stop calling me babe when you lying to my face, she shouted. Her voice echoed off the walls, sharp and trembling. I just saw the call log. 11:47 p.m. Kirk, What are you doing calling her again after everything she put us through? Kirk rubbed his forehead, looking frustrated. It was about business. That's it. Mona reached out to her about doing a cameo, and she asked me if I was cool with it. I told her we could talk, that's all. Rasheeda stared at him, searching for truth in his eyes. You could have told me, she said quietly. You could have told me instead of letting me find out like this. Kirk stepped closer, lowering his voice. I didn't want to start no drama before filming. Rasheeda laughed bitterly. Oh, the drama's already started. What none of them knew was that Jasmine hadn't left the building yet. She was standing just outside the door, listening. The faint hum of the air conditioner covered her footsteps as she leaned closer, catching every word. When Rasheeda said, I can't do this again, Jasmine's expression softened, almost sympathetic. For a brief second, she looked like she regretted everything, but then her phone buzzed a message from Mona. We got what we needed. Stay close. Jasmine smirked. Whatever was happening wasn't over. It was only beginning. Rasheeda didn't sleep that night. Her phone kept lighting up with messages. Half of them from fans tagging her under gossip blogs that were already posting stills from the leaked clip. The comments were ruthless. Not Rasheeda and Jasmine teaming up. One wrote, this gotta be a setup. No way they cool now. Another added, but what stung most were the fans saying she deserved it for staying with Kirk all these years. Every word felt like a slap. She sat in her kitchen at 2 in the morning, scrolling, her eyes glassy and tired. Kirk had gone to bed hours ago, after swearing the call was nothing, but Rasheeda couldn't let it go. Jasmine's face kept flashing in her mind, that calm, confident look, like she had all the power now. And maybe she did. By sunrise, the blogs were already spinning new theories. One headline screamed, secret meeting between Rasheeda and Jasmine was staged by Mona Scott. Another said, Kirk back in contact with Rasheeda, furious behind the scenes. The damage was done. Rasheeda's brand was built on resilience, on rising above betrayal, but this story threatened to tear that image apart again. When she arrived on set the next day, everyone was whispering. The makeup artist avoided her eyes. The crew stayed unusually quiet. Only Mona seemed unfazed. She greeted Rasheeda with her usual calm smile. You look tired, babe. Long night. Rasheeda didn't answer. She dropped her bag and crossed her arms. You knew Jasmine was coming yesterday, didn't you? Mona tilted her head, pretending confusion. Knew, baby, I orchestrated it. That's what we do. We make television. Rasheeda blinked in disbelief. So you just decided to blindside me. For ratings. Mona's smile didn't fade. You're a professional, Rasheeda. You handled yourself like a queen. That scene was gold. People are already talking. The numbers are up. Trust me, this is gonna make you the center of the show again. Rasheeda shook her head. You don't get it. This isn't just a scene to me. That woman destroyed my marriage, humiliated me in front of the world, and you brought her back without warning. Mona's expression hardened slightly. You knew what you signed up for. Reality TV is about real emotion. And yesterday, we got it. The conversation ended there. Rasheeda turned and walked out of the trailer, tears burning her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Outside, Kirk was waiting, pacing nervously. We gotta talk, he said. Rasheeda didn't stop walking. I already know everything I need to know. Kirk followed her, his voice desperate. No, you don't. Jasmine's twisting it. She's trying to stir stuff up again. Rasheeda stopped and turned to face him. Then why is Mona telling me you agreed to film with her next week? Kirk froze. What? She repeated, louder this time. You said it was about business, and now she's saying you already agreed to do a scene with Jasmine. Behind my back. Kirk looked down, rubbing the back of his neck. Look, I didn't think she'd go through with it. I thought if I said yeah, she'd chill out. Rasheeda's laugh was bitter. So you gave her exactly what she wanted. Another opening to play victim. Kirk's tone turned defensive. I'm just trying to keep the peace. You always want me to handle things. And when I do, it's wrong. Rasheeda stepped closer, eyes blazing. Handle things. By lying, by talking to the same woman who tore our family apart. Her voice cracked as she spoke. Before Kirk could respond, Jasmine walked into view. As if summoned by their argument, she looked composed, dressed for filming, and completely unbothered by the chaos she was causing. Hey, she said casually. Am I interrupting something? Rasheeda's jaw clenched. Kirk's face went blank. The tension between all three of them was unbearable. You really have no shame, Rasheeda said quietly. Jasmine shrugged. It's called moving on. Maybe you should try it. The crew nearby started setting up cameras again. Mona's voice echoed from behind them. Let's get this rolling. This is real. Rasheeda turned on her heel and stormed off toward her dressing room, slamming the door behind her. Inside, she finally let herself break. She buried her face in her hands, whispering, "Why can't they just let me live?" She didn't hear the knock at first. When she looked up, it was Yandi standing in the doorway. "Girl, you good?" Yandi asked softly, stepping inside. Rasheeda sighed. "I'm tired, Yandi. I'm tired of being the storyline." Yandi sat beside her. "They always gonna push what sells. But don't let Jasmine win by losing your cool. Remember who you are." Rasheeda nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. She says, "Kirk been calling her? You think that's true?" Yandi hesitated. "Look, I don't know. Kirk got his flaws, but I also know Jasmine don't move without a reason. Maybe she's up to something." Rasheeda looked away, her thoughts racing. "If she's got something, I'll find it. I'm not about to let her ruin my life again." Later that afternoon, filming resumed. Mona insisted on having all three, Rasheeda, Kirk, and Jasmine, on set together. It was meant to be a healing conversation, but everyone knew it was a setup for chaos. The cameras rolled as Mona prompted Jasmine to speak first. Jasmine folded her hands in her lap, pretending calm. "I didn't come back to cause trouble," she began. "I came back because I'm tired of lies. I think the fans deserve the truth." Rasheeda raised an eyebrow. "You mean your version of the truth?" Jasmine's tone sharpened. "No. The truth. The one Kirk been hiding." Kirk shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Ain't nobody hiding nothing," he muttered. Jasmine leaned forward. "Oh really? Then tell her about the texts." The room fell silent. Rasheeda's eyes snapped to Kirk. "What texts?" Kirk's face went pale. Jasmine smirked. "You can delete messages, but you can't erase screenshots." She pulled out her phone again, scrolling through photos until she landed on one. She turned it toward the cameras, and the crew audibly gasped. There, on the screen, were messages that looked like they came from Kirk's number, late-night texts about catching up, about private meetings. "Those fake," Kirk said instantly, trying to laugh it off. "Anybody can Photoshop." Jasmine didn't back down. "So you denying it?" Kirk hesitated, his silence saying more than words ever could. Rasheeda's voice dropped to a whisper. "Kirk, tell," saying more than words ever could. Rasheeda's voice dropped to a whisper. "Kirk, tell me she lying." Kirk looked at her, his eyes full of guilt. "It's not what it looks like." Rasheeda's heart broke in real time. She pushed back her chair and stood up, trembling. "You said you changed," she said softly. "You promised me you were done with all this." Kirk stood too, trying to reach her, but she stepped away. "Don't touch me," she said through clenched teeth. Jasmine watched the scene unfold with a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. For all her calmness, even she seemed shaken by how real the pain felt. Mona finally called cut, but the emotions didn't stop. Rasheeda walked straight off set, heading outside into the sunlight, tears in her eyes. Kirk followed, trying to explain, but she ignored him. "You embarrassed me again," she said finally, turning to face him. "You keep making me relive the worst parts of my life. I can't do this anymore." Kirk's voice cracked. "So what? You leaving?" Rasheeda didn't answer. She just walked away, leaving him standing there. Inside, Jasmine sat alone, scrolling through her phone again. This time, her face looked uneasy. One of the producers approached her quietly. "You did what you came to do," he said. Jasmine didn't respond. She just stared at the screen at a new message that had just come in from an unknown number. It read, "This isn't over. You played the wrong game." She looked up slowly, eyes narrowing. Maybe she wasn't the only one with secrets. The plot was about to twist again. The next morning, Atlanta woke up to chaos. Gossip blogs, fan pages, and even mainstream entertainment outlets were flooded with headlines about the explosive scene between Rasheeda, Kirk, and Jasmine. Clips had leaked again, raw, unedited, and brutal. Every fan had an opinion. Every comment section was a battlefield. Some people sided with Rasheeda, praising her for finally standing her ground. Others accused her of playing victim again. And then there were those who said Jasmine was just telling the truth. No one else had the guts to say. The story had become bigger than the show itself. Producers were thrilled, but for the people living it, it felt like emotional warfare. Inside her home, Rasheeda sat at her vanity, trying to do her makeup for a scheduled interview, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Every few seconds, her phone buzzed. Messages from friends, castmates, even reporters asking for comments. But one message stopped her cold, a private DM from an anonymous account that read, "Asked Kirk about the hotel on Peachtree." Her chest tightened. She deleted it, then stared at herself in the mirror. She didn't want to believe it, but the seed was planted. Jasmine's words, Kirk's hesitation, and now this. Everything pointed toward another secret waiting to explode. Meanwhile, Kirk was at the Frost Bistro, pretending everything was fine. He was talking to his manager about inventory, acting like the internet wasn't dragging his name through the mud. But when Scrappy walked in, the fake calm crumbled. "Bro, what's going on with you?" Scrappy asked, sitting across from him. "Everybody talkin'. The whole city think you back messin' with Jasmine." Kirk sighed heavily. "Man, I ain't messin' with nobody. You know how they twist stuff." Scrappy leaned forward. "Yeah, but the screenshots, the call log, the timing, it don't look good." Kirk looked frustrated. "She baited me. Mona set this whole thing up. She told Jasmine to reach out, then leaked the footage to keep the buzz going. It's business to them, but my family talkin' the hits." Scrappy shook his head. "You better fix that dog, 'cause Rasheeda lookin' like she done this time." Back at home, Rasheeda's mom Charlene showed up unannounced. "Girl, I've been seeing this mess online," she said as soon as she walked in. "You better not let that man make a fool out of you again." Rasheeda sighed. "Mama, please. I can't deal with this right now." But Charlene wouldn't let it go. "You always say that, and next thing I know, y'all on TV talking about forgiveness. You gotta stop letting these people use your pain for entertainment." Rasheeda's voice softened. "It's not that simple, Mama. This show feeds our business, our family. If I walk away, I lose everything we built." Charlene shook her head. "You already losing yourself, baby." A few hours later, Rasheeda showed up to set again, this time dressed sharp, face composed, eyes unreadable. Mona greeted her with her usual producer's calm. "How you holding up?" she asked. "Don't play nice with me," Rasheeda said quietly. "You knew what Jasmine had. You let her humiliate me again." Mona didn't deny it. "This is television, Rasheeda. You've been in this game long enough to know that the best moments come from the messiest truth." Rasheeda leaned closer. "Then maybe it's time I give them the truth about you." For the first time, Mona's expression shifted. "Careful," she warned softly. "You don't want to bite the hand that feeds you." Rasheeda gave a small, bitter smile. "Maybe I'm tired of being fed." Later that day, filming resumed for what was supposed to be a cast dinner scene. Everyone was there. Yandi, Carly, Mimi, even Scrappy and Bambi. But all eyes were on Rasheeda, Kirk, and Jasmine. The energy was stiff. Mona sat just off camera, pretending not to be watching too closely. The scene started light, with jokes and small talk, but it didn't take long for the tension to crack through. Jasmine raised her glass and said sweetly, "Cheers to new beginnings." Rasheeda's eyes flicked toward her. Funny coming from someone who can't stop living in the past. The table went silent. Jasmine smiled. "You still mad about that little phone call?" "Girl, it wasn't even that deep." Kirk shifted uncomfortably. "Let's not do this here," he muttered. But Jasmine ignored him. "Nah, let's do it. Because you've been lying to that woman for years, and she's still acting like you her prize." Kirk's voice rose. "Watch your mouth." Jasmine leaned back, smirking. "Or what? You gonna text me later and tell me you sorry again?" Gasps echoed around the table. Yandi's hand flew to her mouth. Carly whispered, "Oh my God." Rasheeda's whole body went still. Her fork clattered against her plate. "You lying," she said softly, but her voice shook. Jasmine didn't look away. "Am I?" Kirk tried to reach for Rasheeda's hand, but she snatched it back. "Don't touch me," she said sharply. "You think this is funny?" Jasmine's tone softened slightly. "No, I think it's sad. You keep blaming me for his mistakes." The tension was unbearable. Cameras zoomed in, capturing every tear that welled in Rasheeda's eyes. Kirk slammed his hand on the table. "This conversation over," he said, standing up. "Nah," Rasheeda shot back, her voice trembling with fury. "It's just getting started." She turned to Jasmine, her words coming fast now. "You want to talk truth? Let's talk about the hotel on Peachtree. You remember that?" Jasmine froze. The smugness drained from her face. The cast murmured, "What hotel?" Carly asked, wide-eyed. Jasmine tried to recover, but Rasheeda didn't give her a chance. "Yeah, that's what I thought. You thought I didn't know about that night. You thought I wasn't gonna find the receipts." She reached into her bag and pulled out a printed statement, a hotel record under Jasmine's name. Paid for by Kirk's business card. Everyone gasped. Kirk's eyes went wide. "Where you get that?" he asked, his voice shaking. "A DM," Rasheeda said flatly. "Somebody sent it to me. Anonymous. But you tell me that's your card, right?" Kirk didn't answer. The silence stretched until Jasmine finally whispered, "You weren't supposed to see that." That line set the internet on fire again before the night was even over. Fans replayed the clip millions of times, slowing it down, analyzing every expression. "You weren't supposed to see" that became the quote of the week. A line that hinted there was a deeper secret no one had uncovered yet. But on set, the mood was darker. Mona ended the shoot early. "We got more than enough," she said quietly to her team. "Let them breathe. The next one's gonna be even bigger." Outside the restaurant, As night fell, Rasheeda stood by her car, silent, staring at the city lights. Kirk tried to approach again. "Baby, please, let's talk." She didn't move. "You humiliated me." Again, he tried to speak, but she cut him off. "I believed you. I defended you. And you made me look like a fool." Her voice cracked, and she turned away, climbing into the car. "This time, I'm done." The door shut, and the car pulled away, leaving Kirk standing alone in the glow of the streetlights, knowing the whole world had just watched his life fall apart. As the cameras kept rolling that night, the energy around the set fall apart. As the cameras kept rolling that night, the energy around the set shifted from tense to outright explosive. Everyone felt it, the unease, the whispers, the heat of something about to erupt. Mona Scott knew exactly what she was doing when she scheduled Rasheeda and Jasmine's shoot back-to-back. She wanted raw emotion, the kind of television that makes fans scream at their screens. What she didn't expect was how deep this would go. As Rasheeda wrapped her confessional, Jasmine walked in, her hair slicked back, eyes sharp like she came prepared for battle. Crew members froze, pretending to adjust lights, while secretly leaning in to catch every word. Rasheeda turned around slowly, her expression unreadable. Jasmine smirked. "So I guess we pretending we don't know each other now." The room fell silent. Rasheeda tilted her head slightly. "You really want to do this here?" Jasmine shrugged. "Why not? We've been doing it everywhere else." That was all it took for emotions to unravel. Mona signaled the cameraman to keep filming. This was gold. Pure, messy, unexpected gold. Rasheeda took a deep breath, her tone calm but cold. "You don't know what you're talking about. I'm here to work, not to entertain your drama." Jasmine stepped closer. "Work? Funny you say that, 'cause last time I checked, your husband been working too. Just not on music." The crew gasped. Kirk's name hit the air like gasoline on a spark. Rasheeda's jaw tightened, her composure slipping. "You still stuck on the past? That chapter's closed." Jasmine laughed. "Closed? Oh no, sweetie, that book just reopened itself." Rasheeda glared. "You really can't stand seeing me happy, can you?" Jasmine's tone softened for a second. "I could, if you were honest about what happiness really looks like." It wasn't just a fight anymore, it was confession, tension, and years of pain surfacing in front of the world. Mona's phone buzzed non-stop from producers watching the live feed. "Keep rolling," she whispered to her assistant. "This episode's about to change everything." Outside the set, Kirk paced the hallway, phone to his ear, muttering, "They can't be serious right now. This ain't the plan." He wasn't supposed to be there, but curiosity pulled him in. He peeked through the monitor and saw Jasmine pointing directly at Rasheeda, saying, "You think I wanted this? You think I liked being the villain while you played the victim?" Rasheeda shot back. "You made your choices. I made mine." Kirk could see the tremor in Rasheeda's voice. She was holding back tears, trying not to crumble under the weight of the moment. Mona turned to the crew. "Don't cut. This is real." Back inside, Jasmine's tone turned cutting. "You always say you forgave him, but we both know you didn't. You just covered the wound and called it peace." Rasheeda's lips parted as if to respond, but no words came out. Her silence said more than anything. The tension broke when Kirk stormed in, voice booming, "Enough. Y'all ain't bout to use my family for entertainment." Mona raised her hand, calm but firm. "Too late, Kirk. The cameras already did." Jasmine looked between them, eyes glistening but defiant. "You think this is about the show? This is about closure. Something y'all never gave me." Rasheeda shook her head. "Closure doesn't come from blowing up people's lives on national TV." Jasmine's voice cracked. "Then where was it supposed to come from? From the lies? From you acting like it never happened?" Kirk's face fell. For once, he didn't have a defense. The silence was heavy, like everyone was holding their breath. Then Jasmine took a step back, exhaled, and said softly, "You don't have to hate me forever." Rasheeda looked at her, conflicted. For a second, the woman who had every reason to be furious also looked like she understood. "Maybe I don't," Rasheeda whispered, "but I can't forget what you cost me." The cameras zoomed in on her face, capturing every flicker of emotion. Mona leaned closer to the monitor, whispering to herself, "This is TV history." And as if on cue, Jasmine turned toward the crew and said, "You can cut." I said what I needed to say, but nobody moved. Because even though the scene was over, something between them had shifted, something the audience would feel before they even understood it. When Jasmine walked off set, the crew watched in stunned silence. Rasheeda just stood there, motionless, until Kirk touched her shoulder. She pulled away. "Don't," she said quietly. "Just don't." Kirk's voice was low, pleading. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." Rasheeda turned, her eyes filled with a mix of exhaustion and heartbreak. "It never is, Kirk. It never is. Outside, Jasmine sat on the edge of the trailer stairs, wiping her face. Fans outside the set shouted her name, half cheering, half booing. Social media had already exploded. Within minutes, clips of the confrontation were everywhere. Hashtags like hashtag Rasheeda vs Jasmine live and hashtag Love War reunion trended worldwide. Fans were torn. Some said Jasmine was brave for speaking her truth. Others accused her of chasing fame. And in the middle of it all, Rasheeda stayed silent. Her silence said more than a statement ever could. As the sun dipped behind the studio lot, Mona walked out, lit a cigarette, and smiled faintly. "Chaos," she muttered. "But it's the kind people can't stop watching." Back inside, Kirk tried to talk to Rasheeda again, but she had already walked away. She went straight to her dressing room, locked the door, and stared at her reflection. Under the bright vanity lights, her makeup looked perfect, but her eyes told another story. She whispered to herself, "How did we end up here again?" Behind her, the monitor still showed Jasmine walking away from the set. It wasn't over. Not for them, not for the fans, and definitely not for Mona, who already knew the next episode would dig even deeper. By the next week, Atlanta was buzzing. Fans lined up outside the studio hoping to catch a glimpse of Rasheeda, Jasmine, or even Kirk. Each person with their own theory about what really happened behind the scenes. Hashtags were still trending. Podcasts dissected every frame of the leaked footage. And gossip blogs claimed to have exclusive insider info. Mona Scott, however, was sitting in her office with her phone pressed to her ear. Speaking to the network executive, "I told you it would blow up," she said coolly. "This is exactly what we needed before the finale." The executive sounded uneasy. "Yeah, but it's going too far." Kirk's threatening to walk. Rasheeda's talking about not showing up for reunion taping. Mona smirked. "They'll come. They always come when it's time to control their narrative." She hung up and leaned back in her chair, staring at the headlines splashed across her tablet. Rasheeda confronts Jasmine again, and love and hip-hop scandal goes too far. She whispered, "Chaos is currency." Across town, Rasheeda was sitting in her boutique, pretending to check inventory while her phone kept lighting up with messages. Her best friend called, saying, "Girl, you see what Jasmine posted?" Rasheeda sighed. "No, and I don't want to see." But curiosity won. She opened Jasmine's Instagram story. It was a behind-the-scenes clip of her crying after the confrontation. Captioned, "The truth always hurts, but healing starts with honesty." Rasheeda stared at the screen for a long time, conflicted. Her assistant approached. "You want me to delete comments again?" Rasheeda shook her head. "Nah, let them talk. I'm tired of hiding." Meanwhile, Jasmine sat alone at a quiet diner, sipping her coffee, scrolling through the storm she'd caused. Her phone buzzed a message from an unknown number. "You made your point. Now stop before it gets worse." She froze. She looked around, but saw no one suspicious. Then another message came in. "Some things shouldn't be aired. Jasmine, think about your son." Her heart dropped. She locked her phone and took a shaky breath. Whatever this was, it wasn't just about TV anymore. Later that night, Kirk came home to find Rasheeda sitting in the dark, watching old clips from earlier seasons. "You still up?" he asked softly. She didn't answer. The screen showed a younger, happier version of them laughing during an interview. She finally said, "We used to look real." Kirk sighed. "We were real." Rasheeda turned to him. "Then when did we become a storyline?" He didn't know how to answer. The silence stretched until her phone buzzed again, this time. A call from Mona. Rasheeda picked up. "You ready for the reunion?" Mona asked. Rasheeda replied coldly, "You sure you want me there? I might say something you can't edit." Mona smiled on the other end. "Then say it." "The truth." Mona smiled on the other end. "Then say it." The truth always gets the best ratings. 2 days later, the reunion taping began. The set looked extravagant, lights blazing, cameras everywhere, audience whispering in anticipation. Rasheeda arrived first, wearing an all-white outfit that radiated calm but hid fury. Kirk followed quietly behind her, trying to keep the peace. And then Jasmine walked in dressed in bold red, unapologetic, her confidence filling the room. Fans in the audience gasped. Mona took her seat as host, the queen orchestrating the storm. "Ladies," she began, "the world's been waiting for this. What really happened that day?" Rasheeda looked directly at Jasmine. "You came to that set knowing exactly what you were doing." Jasmine shot back. "And you knew exactly what you were hiding." Gasps rippled through the audience. Mona leaned forward, feeding the fire. "So Jasmine, what are you saying Rasheeda's hiding?" Jasmine hesitated, then smiled faintly. "I'm saying there's more to that happy family story than she wants people to believe." Rasheeda's tone sharpened. "You're still reaching for relevance." Jasmine shook her head. "No, I'm reaching for respect." Kirk tried to step in. "Enough. Both of y'all need to chill. Mona raised her hand. No, Kirk, let them talk. Jasmine turned to him suddenly. Why you always speak for her? Why can't she answer for herself? Rasheeda snapped. Because I don't need validation from the woman who helped destroy my marriage. Jasmine's eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed steady. And you think you didn't destroy mine? The room went silent. Mona's eyes widened. What you mean by that? Jasmine looked down, then back up, voice trembling. Kirk wasn't the only one lying. There's things he told me, things that would break this whole perfect couple image apart. Rasheeda's heart started pounding. She said quietly, "Don't you dare." Jasmine leaned forward. Then tell the truth before I do. Kirk stood, his voice cracking. Jasmine, don't do this. Mona gestured for the cameras to zoom in. The tension was electric. Jasmine looked straight into the lens. You want to know the real reason I showed up that day? Because someone told me Rasheeda already knew about everything before it even happened and she went along with it for the show. Gasps filled the studio. Rasheeda stood abruptly, her voice rising. That's a lie. Jasmine shook her head. Then why did you keep filming after you found out? Mona's eyes darted between them, knowing she'd just captured the most explosive moment of the season. Kirk was speechless, torn between defending himself and his wife. Rasheeda's voice broke. Because I had to survive. Jasmine, because if I stopped filming, I would have lost everything. The confession hit harder than any rumor could. Jasmine froze, her anger softening into understanding. The audience fell silent, and for the first time in years, the truth sat heavy between them, ugly, raw, and undeniable. Mona didn't say a word. She didn't have to. She knew the cameras had caught exactly what the world would talk about for months. The set was still buzzing hours after the reunion wrapped. Crew members whispered as they packed up, unsure if they'd just filmed reality or the emotional wreckage of 3 lives unraveling on national television. Rasheeda had walked out mid-scene, tears streaking down her face, while Jasmine sat frozen in her chair, stunned by what had just unfolded. Mona remained seated long after the cameras stopped rolling, her mind spinning with what she'd witnessed. She had chased drama for years, but this time, it felt different. This wasn't just entertainment. It was something too human, too painful to edit neatly into an episode. Outside, Kirk found Rasheeda leaning against a wall near the exit, wiping her face with trembling hands. Baby, he said quietly, stepping closer. She didn't move. You said you were done lying. She whispered, but the whole time, I was lying too. I kept telling people I was fine, that we were solid, that we'd moved on. But I never did. Kirk's eyes softened, guilt written across his face. I know I hurt you, he said, but we can still fix this. Rasheeda shook her head slowly. Fix it? Kirk, we've been trying to fix it for 10 years. All we ever do is patch holes in a sinking ship. She turned away, her voice barely audible. I don't know if I can keep pretending for the cameras or for us. Jasmine came out from the studio doors a moment later, hesitating when she saw them. Kirk tensed, but Rasheeda lifted her hand slightly. Let her talk, she said. Jasmine walked up cautiously, her voice low. I didn't mean for it to go that far. Rasheeda looked at her, eyes red but calm. You always mean for it to go that far. That's the difference between you and me. Jasmine shook her head. No, the difference is, I was never allowed to tell my side. Rasheeda studied her, really seeing her for the first time. Jasmine looked tired, like a woman who had spent too long being hated. Rasheeda sighed. You said your piece now. You happy? Jasmine's eyes watered. No. I just feel empty. Kirk stepped back, letting them face each other without interference. The two women stood under the dim studio lights, years of tension collapsing into silence. Maybe that's the truth of all this, Rasheeda said softly. Nobody wins. We just survive. Jasmine nodded slowly. And sometimes surviving looks like starting over. She turned to leave, but before walking away, she looked back and said, for what it's worth, I never hated you. Rasheeda didn't respond, but her expression softened enough to say she heard it. Once Jasmine disappeared into the night, Kirk spoke again. What now? Rasheeda looked up at him. Now, I need space. Real space. No cameras. No contracts. Kirk frowned. You walking away from everything? She exhaled. No. I'm walking toward myself. The next morning, Mona met with her editors, watching the raw reunion footage on a big screen. Every tear, every word, every pause was powerful. One of the editors said, this might be too real. You sure we can air this? Mona leaned forward, eyes locked on Rasheeda's final confession. If reality TV's about showing the truth, this is the truest it's ever been. But later, alone in her office, she watched the footage again, slower this time, noticing how broken everyone looked. For once, Mona questioned her own role in the chaos. She whispered, maybe some truths weren't meant to be filmed. By noon, social media had exploded again. Leaked clips of the reunion were everywhere, with fans arguing over who was right. One post read, Rasheeda deserves peace. Another said, Jasmine finally told the truth. A third one accused Mona of exploitation. Everyone had an opinion, but none of them really knew the cost of what they'd watched. That night, Jasmine posted a long message on Instagram. I've made mistakes, she wrote, but pain doesn't disappear when cameras stop rolling. I'm not a villain. I'm a person who got caught in someone else's story. Rasheeda saw the post but didn't comment. Instead, she went live for the first time in months, speaking quietly to her fans. I know y'all saw what happened, she said, but sometimes real life don't fit in a storyline. Sometimes healing means letting people think whatever they want while you find your own peace. The comments flooded in hearts, tears, and words of support. For the first time, the tone shifted from gossip to empathy. Even Jasmine joined the live quietly, using a fake account just to listen. Across town, Kirk sat in his car watching Rasheeda's live too. His hand rested on the steering wheel, his expression distant. He whispered to himself, she ain't wrong. Back at the network office, Mona's assistant entered with the latest analytics. The reunion broke viewership records, she said. Mona nodded slowly but didn't smile. She stared at the numbers, then at the paused frame of Rasheeda's tear-streaked face on the monitor. Yeah, Mona muttered, but look what it broke to get there. When the screen went dark, the silence felt heavier than applause. A week passed, and Atlanta's gossip scene was still spinning. Every talk show, every blog, every fan account was replaying the reunion moment where Rasheeda confessed she'd stayed in her marriage for survival. The clip had gone viral worldwide. Fans argued in endless comment threads, and think pieces filled social media feeds about the cost of love in the spotlight. But behind the trending chaos, the people at the center of it all were retreating into silence. Rasheeda had turned off her phone. She hadn't posted in days, hadn't answered Kirk's calls, and hadn't shown up at her boutique. She was staying with an old friend just outside the city, away from the flashing cameras and microphones waiting outside her gate. One evening, she sat by the window, staring out at the quiet street. Her friend came in and set a cup of tea beside her. You okay? She asked gently. Rasheeda smiled faintly. First time I've heard silence in months. It feels strange. Her friend nodded. That's peace, girl. Don't confuse it with loneliness. Meanwhile, Jasmine had been booked for an interview with a popular talk show. Her manager pushed her to go, calling it a chance to tell your side. Jasmine hesitated but agreed. The studio lights were bright when she stepped on stage, and the host wasted no time. You shocked everyone at the reunion, he began. Do you regret what you said? Jasmine took a deep breath. I don't regret telling the truth, but I regret how it came out. The audience leaned in. It wasn't about hurting anyone, she continued. It was about finally letting go of something that haunted me. People see me as the other woman, the problem, but I'm more than that. I'm someone who made mistakes. Yeah, but I also got used by people who wanted a storyline. The host nodded. Are you talking about Mona? Jasmine gave a sad smile. Mona gave me a platform. I just didn't realize the price tag attached. Backstage, one of Mona's producers was watching the interview live, eyes wide. He texted her immediately. She's calling you out on air. Mona didn't respond. She was already watching it herself, her expression unreadable. Later that night, she scrolled through the comments flooding Jasmine's clip. Half the people praised her for being honest. The other half accused her of playing victim again. Mona leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. They always forget, she muttered. The truth ain't entertainment till it breaks someone. Elsewhere, Kirk finally tracked down where Rasheeda was staying. He knocked softly on the door, holding a bag of food in one hand. When she opened it, he tried a small smile. Brought your favorite wings. She hesitated, then stepped aside to let him in. They sat in silence for a while before he spoke. You been quiet? Too quiet. Rasheeda stared at her tea. I needed to remember who I was before all this. Kirk leaned forward. And who was that? She looked up at him, eyes calm but distant. A woman who didn't need cameras to prove she mattered. Kirk's voice cracked. You still matter to me. She shook her head gently. That's not enough anymore. Kirk, for the first time, he didn't argue. He just nodded, accepting what they both already knew, that the love they once had was still there. But it wasn't strong enough to live under the lights. A few days later, Mona called Rasheeda to check in. You doing okay? She asked, her tone surprisingly soft. I'm surviving, Rasheeda replied. That's good, Mona said quietly. Look, I wanted to say, I didn't mean for it to go that far. The reunion, what happened? It got bigger than I expected. Rasheeda let out a small laugh. That's the thing, Mona. It always does. Mona sighed. The network wants another season. They want to follow this arc. You, Kirk, Jasmine, it's all anyone's talking about. Rasheeda paused. And what do you want? There was a long silence. Then Mona said, I want to tell real stories, not just drama. Rasheeda smiled faintly. Then start by letting this one end. When they hung up, Mona sat in her dark office, the city lights flickering outside. She had spent her career chasing moments like this, raw, explosive, unforgettable, but for the first time, she didn't feel victorious. She opened her laptop, looked at the raw reunion footage one last time, then slowly closed it. Across the city, Jasmine sat on her couch scrolling through messages from strangers, some kind, some cruel. She stopped on one that said, "You don't owe the world an explanation." She smiled a little and typed back, "Maybe not, but I owe myself peace." The next morning, fans woke up to a new headline that surprised everyone. Rasheeda Frost announces break from television. In her statement, she wrote, "Thank you for watching my journey. It's been real, but I need time to heal and live beyond the lens." The post went viral instantly. Fans flooded her comments with love and support. Jasmine reposted it on her own page with a simple caption, "Respect." Kirk didn't post anything. He didn't need to. Sometimes, silence said it all. Mona watched it unfold quietly, feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time: closure. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't chaotic. It was simply over, and for once, that felt like the most shocking twist of all. As the cameras kept rolling and the crew whispered in disbelief, Rasheeda and Jasmine stood just inches apart, their tension filling the entire studio like static before a storm. No one could believe that after years of messy history, they were now face to face again, and this time, there were no producers to hold them back. The air was thick with resentment, confusion, and an undeniable spark of unfinished business. Jasmine crossed her arms, her tone sharp. "You think you can just act like none of it happened?" Rasheeda's voice stayed calm but heavy. "I'm here for work, not drama." But Jasmine scoffed. "Work? You mean rewriting history?" Everyone froze. Jasmine's words hung in the air like a grenade about to go off. Kirk shifted uncomfortably in the corner, trying not to make eye contact with either of them. One of the producers whispered, "Keep the cameras rolling. This is gold." Rasheeda took a slow breath, turning toward Jasmine. "You came back for this show, Jasmine. You wanted this moment. So here it is. Say what you came to say." Jasmine didn't hesitate. "You built your whole image pretending to forgive, but you never really moved on. You want everyone to see me as the villain, when you were the one trying to keep a man who'd already chosen someone else." That hit Rasheeda hard. For the first time, her expression faltered. "You think you know what I went through?" Jasmine stepped closer, her voice trembling now. "I know exactly what you went through, because I went through it too." Silence filled the set. Even Mona Scott, watching from the monitors backstage, looked stunned. She whispered to one of the producers, "This is not what we planned, but it's better than anything we could have written." Kirk finally spoke, his tone low but loaded. "Both of y'all need to stop. This ain't the time or place." But Jasmine turned to him, fury flashing in her eyes. "You don't get to talk right now, Kirk. You had your time to be honest, and you lied to both of us." Rasheeda's voice cracked slightly. "So what do you want, Jasmine? Revenge? Closure?" Jasmine hesitated, then said softly, "I want the truth. On camera. Once and for all." Kirk froze. Rasheeda's jaw tightened. The producer gestured frantically to the camera crew to zoom in. Jasmine took a deep breath. "You told everyone you cut things off with me years ago. But last year, you called me. You said you still cared. You said you were confused. You said enough." Rasheeda's voice rose, sharp and raw. The entire room went silent again. She turned toward Kirk, her eyes filled with disbelief. "Is that true?" Kirk didn't answer. His silence spoke louder than any confession could. Jasmine's voice broke as she said, "I didn't come here to ruin your life, Rasheeda. I came here because I'm tired of pretending, tired of being painted as the only one who did wrong." Rasheeda's hands trembled. "You were the other woman, Jasmine. What did you expect?" "I expected honesty," Jasmine whispered, "but all any of us ever got were lies." Mona stepped out from behind the cameras for the first time, clapping her hands once to break the tension. "Cut. Everyone take 5. But no one moved. Kirk stared at the floor. Jasmine wiped her tears, and Rasheeda walked away slowly, leaving her mic still on. The producers exchanged looks. This wasn't just reality TV anymore. This was real. Outside the studio, fans had already begun speculating after leaked snippets appeared online. Clips of Jasmine's confrontation spread fast, and within hours, Hashtags like hashtag #RASHEEDA and Jasmine and hashtag Kirk exposed started trending. Fans were shocked, with one commenting, "This feels too real to be scripted." Another wrote, "After all these years, it's finally unraveling." As the crew packed up for the day, Mona pulled Kirk aside. "You need to fix this before it blows up," she warned. Kirk sighed, "It's already too late." Meanwhile, Jasmine sat alone in her dressing room, her reflection flickering under the vanity lights. She whispered to herself, "I told the truth. Now let's see what happens next." Outside, Rasheeda stood in the parking lot, staring at her. Outside, Rasheeda stood in the parking lot, staring at her. Met for lunch, both eager to discuss the chaos. Carly leaned over her drink, grinning. "Girl, did you see that mess?" Jasmine really came for Rasheeda's whole soul. Michelle shook her head. "I'm telling you, Mona's behind this. She probably set that whole thing up to keep people talking." Carly laughed. "Well, it's working. Even my mama texted me about it." Inside Rasheeda's boutique, her staff whispered nervously when she walked in. Business had slowed down since the scandal, but she tried to keep her head high. She greeted customers, posed for a few polite selfies, and pretended everything was fine. Yet the moment she stepped into her office, the facade fell. She stared at a framed photo of her and Kirk, smiling at an old red carpet event. She turned it face down. Her phone buzzed again, a message from Mona. "We need to talk tonight." Rasheeda hesitated, then typed back, "Fine." That evening, they met at a quiet lounge away from cameras. Mona's expression was unreadable. "You know this episode's about to air in 2 days, right?" Rasheeda nodded. "Then I need you to tell me if any of what Jasmine said was true." Mona's eyebrow lifted. "Does it matter? The audience already believes it." Rasheeda frowned. "It matters to me." Mona leaned forward. "Rasheeda, I've seen women survive worse on this show. What you need to do now is own the narrative. Go on camera, speak your truth, whatever that may be, but don't hide. If you disappear, they'll write your story for you." Rasheeda thought for a long moment, then finally said, "Fine, I'll do it, but on my terms." Mona smiled. "That's the spirit." Across town, Jasmine was filming a separate confessional. Her makeup artist dabbed her tears as she spoke directly to the camera. "People think I enjoy drama, but I don't. I just wanted peace. I never thought telling the truth would cause this much pain." The director whispered, "Beautiful. Keep that emotion." She continued, her voice breaking slightly. "I know people hate me. Maybe I deserve that, but I can't apologize for being honest." 2 days later, the episode aired. Social media exploded within minutes. The fight scene between Rasheeda and Jasmine trended worldwide. Fans dissected every expression, every pause, every tear. One moment in particular caught everyone's attention when Kirk stayed silent. Memes flooded the internet, captions reading Kirk, "EXE stopped working," and that silence was louder than a confession. The reactions were instant and fierce. Team Rasheeda fans defended her as a strong woman betrayed again, while Team Jasmine supporters claimed she was finally vindicated. The entire love and hip-hop community seemed split down the middle. As the episode ended, a teaser flashed on screen. "Next week Rasheeda speaks out." Fans went wild. "We're not missing that," one tweeted. Mona watched from her office, satisfied. "Ratings are gonna break records," she said to herself. Yet even she couldn't predict what would happen next, because that night, after the episode aired, Jasmine received a text from an unknown number. It read, "You think you told the truth. You only told half." Her hands trembled as she stared at the screen. Outside her window, camera flashes flickered, paparazzi already waiting. Somewhere else, Rasheeda was drafting a public statement, one that would either calm the storm or blow it wide open again. Kirk, alone in a hotel room, stared at his phone, rewatching the episode in silence. He knew he was about to lose more than just his reputation. He was about to lose everything. The following morning, the fallout hit harder than anyone expected. Social media was still in flames, and Rasheeda's name dominated every trending list. Bloggers posted slowed-down clips of her reactions, breaking down every blink, sigh, and glance toward Kirk as if decoding hidden messages. That look said everything. One viral tweet read, gaining over 500,000 likes overnight. News outlets reached out for interviews, but Rasheeda refused to answer calls. Instead, she sat on her couch, wrapped in a robe, phone buzzing non-stop beside her. Kirk's voice filled the house from the television. He had given a surprise interview to a gossip podcast late last night. "I made mistakes," Kirk said through the speakers, his voice steady but strained. "But people twist things for TV. Not everything y'all saw happened how it looked," the host pressed. So you're saying Jasmine lied? Kirk paused. I'm saying there's more to the story, and when folks find out, they'll understand. Rasheeda muted the TV, her stomach tightening. More to the story, she whispered. What story are you trying to sell now? Her phone pinged again, a message from Jasmine. I saw his interview. Don't believe him. Rasheeda stared at it for a long time before locking her screen. Later that day, Mona called an emergency sit-down with all three of them, Rasheeda, Jasmine, and Kirk. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Cameras rolled, though no one dared acknowledge them. Mona's tone was firm. The audience wants clarity, and we're giving it to them. Whatever's left unsaid, say it now. Jasmine leaned forward. Fine, I'll start. Kirk, tell her about the night you came to my apartment. The one after the reunion. Rasheeda's head snapped toward Kirk. His silence said it all. Jasmine continued, tears glinting in her eyes. You said you needed closure. You said you didn't love her the same way anymore. Kirk shook his head quickly. That's not true. But Jasmine's voice grew stronger. Then why'd you spend the night? Kirk. Rasheeda's face went pale. The cameras caught every detail, her trembling hands, the slight quiver in her lip. Kirk tried to speak, but Mona stopped him. No, let it sit. The silence tells the truth. Jasmine turned to Rasheeda. Softer now. I didn't tell you that to hurt you. I told you because you deserve the whole truth. Rasheeda finally spoke, her voice cold and calm. You always find a way to play the victim, Jasmine. But let's not forget you were part of this too. You knew he was married. Jasmine flinched. I was young. I made mistakes. But I didn't make vows. He did. Kirk slammed his hand on the table. Stop trying to make me the villain. Mona raised her eyebrows. Oh honey, it's too late for that. After the shoot, Mona pulled her producers aside, whispering, this isn't just reality TV anymore, it's a confession tape. They nodded, already editing the footage in their heads. That night, snippets leaked again, this time showing Jasmine crying and Kirk storming out. Fans were shocked. Comments poured in. This is getting darker every week and they need therapy, not cameras. But drama meant attention, and attention meant numbers. The next morning, Mona checked the overnight ratings, record-breaking. While the show's success soared, the cast's lives fell apart behind the scenes. Rasheeda moved out temporarily, staying with a friend to clear her head. Kirk released a statement calling the show manipulative, though few believed him. Jasmine, meanwhile, received a flood of brand offers from companies wanting to capitalize on her sudden sympathy. She refused them all. In a quiet moment, she posted a message online. Truth has a price. I just hope it was worth paying. A week later, Mona organized another shoot, this time a private one-on-one with Rasheeda. She wanted to capture the aftermath in raw form. The set was simple, just Rasheeda in a dimly lit room. Mona sat off camera, her voice gentle but probing. When you look back on everything, what do you feel? Rasheeda took a long pause before answering. Tired? Not angry, not broken, just tired. Everyone sees the show, but no one sees what happens when the lights turn off. When you're left sitting in the quiet, wondering who's really on your side. Her eyes glistened, and for the first time, her voice wavered. I stayed with Kirk because I believed in family. I believed in redemption. But maybe some stories don't get fixed, they just fade out. Mona was silent, knowing she had captured something powerful. But just when the tension seemed to calm, another twist hit the internet. An anonymous source leaked text messages allegedly between Jasmine and Kirk from only a month ago. The messages were flirty, familiar, and damning. One read, "You know I still think about you sometimes." Fans went wild. Was Kirk lying again? Had Jasmine kept quiet about more? Or was it all fabricated to keep the show relevant? Speculation took over. And once again, the triangle reignited. That night, Jasmine confronted Kirk privately at a downtown restaurant. Unaware, a paparazzo had followed her. Their conversation turned heated quickly. "Why would you text me that if you're trying to fix your marriage?" she hissed. Kirk looked around nervously, lowering his voice. "Because I was confused." "Okay, everything's falling apart. You wouldn't understand." Jasmine shot back. "I understand perfectly. You want attention from both of us, and you don't deserve either." She grabbed her purse and walked out as cameras flashed. The next morning, those photos were everywhere. Headlines screamed, "Caught again." Kirk and Jasmine spotted late night together. Rasheeda's phone blew up once more, her expression blank as she scrolled through the images. She didn't cry this time. She didn't even look surprised. Instead, she whispered, "Maybe this is who he's always been." She called Mona and said, "Set up the cameras. I'm ready to tell my side once and for all." And just like that, the next episode was in motion, one that would blur the line between reality and revenge forever. As the tension reached its peak online, the world of Atlanta's entertainment scene began to fracture. What was once tight-lipped loyalty among producers, editors, and cast members now became a leaking dam of secrets. One by one, anonymous insiders began sharing files, call logs, and text threads allegedly showing how storylines were shaped to amplify, betrayal, and destroy real friendships for higher ratings. Among those messages were ones reportedly between Mona Scott and senior producers, discussing the now infamous hotel meeting with K. Michelle. One message read, "Rasheeda's narrative is stale, fans need a shock next season." Another said, "Let K play the redemption card, it'll flip public sympathy." The leaks caught fire immediately, sending the internet into meltdown. The fans felt cheated, like their emotions had been toyed with for years. And this time, even people inside the industry began speaking up. Several ex-producers confirmed what many already suspected: the line between reality and manipulation was long gone. They described late-night meetings where story arcs were rewritten to heighten conflict, where tears became tools, and where women's pain was packaged as entertainment. One producer admitted they had been told to keep Rasheeda in the loop just enough to make her trust the process. The revelation broke something in the fandom. It wasn't just a show anymore, it was a betrayal of authenticity. People who had followed these women for years began demanding justice, accountability, and truth. Mona's empire started to tremble. Sponsors pulled back. The network postponed the next season's production, calling it a strategic pause. Insiders whispered that executives were divided. Some wanted to protect Mona for her legacy, while others wanted a clean break before the brand was fully tarnished. Mona herself stayed quiet, though her team kept insisting the leaks were fake, the messages fabricated. Still, the screenshots spread faster than damage control could catch them. The story had already escaped the boundaries of her control. Meanwhile, Rasheeda kept building her own narrative, this time on her terms. She partnered with women's networks, held talks about empowerment, and launched an initiative supporting reality TV stars who'd faced public humiliation or manipulation. She spoke with grace, never naming names, but every listener knew who she meant. Her interviews were calm, reflective, and painfully honest. She said, "I used to think strength was surviving chaos. Now I know it's walking away from it." Fans quoted it like scripture. The same blogs that once mocked her now celebrated her as the face of integrity in a world addicted to spectacle. K. Michelle, for her part, began a slow transformation. After her private apology to Rasheeda, she too started distancing herself from the industry that had used her fire for ratings. She posted videos talking about forgiveness, peace, and artistic freedom. Her followers noticed a change: less gossip, more music, more so. In one live session, she said, "The truth is, when you're the loud one, they make you the villain. But I was never angry, I was surviving." The comment hit deep, going viral across platforms. Suddenly, two women who had been pitted against each other for years became the symbols of healing and growth. But Mona wasn't ready to disappear quietly. Sources close to her claimed she was assembling a tell-all documentary to set the record straight. They said she planned to reveal what really happened behind the scenes, painting herself as the misunderstood architect of reality television. Some saw it as desperation, others as strategy. Either way, it reignited public curiosity. Teaser clips began surfacing online. Mona, sitting in a dark studio, saying lines like, "They all loved the fame until the consequences came. And every story has a villain, but maybe they chose the wrong one." The clips were cinematic, dramatic, perfectly edited. Yet, instead of clearing her name, they made her look even more manipulative. The backlash was swift. Fans commented that she was playing the same game again, reality for attention. Others demanded she apologize to Rasheeda publicly. Hashtags like #BoycottMona and #ProtectBlackWomen started trending. For the first time in her career, Mona faced public rejection not from cast members but from viewers who once adored her brilliance. She issued a statement through her publicist saying she'd always uplifted Black women by giving them platforms to tell their stories, but few believed her now. Inside her inner circle, cracks began to form. Producers who had stood by her started leaving the company quietly. One even gave an interview under anonymity, claiming Mona was losing control. They described tense meetings, shouting matches, and canceled deals. "She's realizing," the producer said, "that power built on pain doesn't last forever." The statement spread like wildfire, marking the beginning of the end for Mona's public dominance. Then came the most unexpected twist. A video leaked from the network's archives at NRB4 scene recording from the reunion taping. It showed Mona during a break, Speaking privately to another producer, she said, "If Rasheeda doesn't give us tears tonight, we'll use the Jasmine angle again. Pain sells, always has." The clip was short, grainy, but unmistakable. Her voice was clear. Within hours, the footage went viral. Fans were outraged. Media outlets called it the final nail. Mona went silent on social media for days. An uncharacteristic move for a woman who once controlled every headline. Behind the scenes, legal teams got involved. The network distanced itself, saying they condemn any unethical production practices. Contracts were reevaluated. Former cast members considered suing for emotional distress. It became clear that what began as a fabricated storyline had spiraled into real-world consequences. And through it all, Rasheeda remained calm. She didn't gloat or celebrate. She simply posted one message on her Instagram story: "The truth always finds the mic." It became an instant meme, a rallying cry for transparency in entertainment. As days turned into weeks, Mona's empire continued to crumble. Her upcoming documentary was shelved indefinitely. Sponsors withdrew funding. Her name, once synonymous with innovation, became a warning. But even in her downfall, she refused to show weakness. One insider said she told her staff, "Every queen gets dethroned eventually. But I built the castle, they'll still be walking on my floor." Yet, in the silence that followed, the world saw what she hadn't: a shift in the culture she created. The women she once molded into television characters had taken back their humanity. Rasheeda had turned her pain into purpose. Michelle had found her voice again. And fans had finally learned to question the stories they consumed. What had begun as a secret meeting to control a narrative had evolved into something poetic, a reckoning. And in the ruins of all that chaos, the truth finally stood unedited. Just when the whispers seemed to settle and the cameras stopped rolling, something unexpected stirred the storm again. Late one night, a leaked phone call surfaced online, allegedly between Mona Scott and a network executive. The audio was grainy, the voices muffled, but the tone was unmistakable. Mona's voice could be heard discussing damage control and keeping Rasheeda calm until the reunion. It was enough to reignite every rumor that had begun to fade. The internet exploded with theories, hashtags, and fan-made breakdowns of every second of the clip. Some swore it was real, others called it an AI fake. But what mattered most was that it sounded believable, and that was all it took. Within hours, Michelle's old tweets began circulating again. "Never trust someone who plays both sides," one said. Fans dug up every shady look, every cryptic caption, and every time Mona smiled during Rasheeda's confessions, piecing together a storyline of betrayal that almost wrote itself. Meanwhile, Rasheeda had gone silent. No posts, no statements, not even a hint of her usual boutique updates. Insiders claimed she was furious, not just at Mona and Michelle, but at the entire love and hip-hop system. "She feels like a pawn," one producer whispered anonymously. Like her marriage, her pain, her loyalty, were all used as ratings tools. But Mona wasn't backing down. In her circle, she reportedly called the whole situation messy but necessary. For her, this wasn't betrayal, it was business. She'd built her empire on drama, on knowing how to turn real tension into must-watch television. Yet this time, the lines were blurrier than ever. Behind closed doors, Michelle was said to be feeling the heat. That leaked call made her look complicit, even manipulative. She tried to laugh it off on Instagram Live, saying, "Y'all always trying to make me the villain. I'm just saying, y'all always trying to make me the villain. I'm just telling the truth." But her eyes betrayed a flash of worry. She'd seen this before, how fast love turns to blame when the story shifts. Some fans sided with her, calling her real for exposing what others hid. Others accused her of destroying friendships just to stay relevant. And somewhere between those two worlds, Mona watched the chaos unfold, her silence louder than any statement could be. As the media frenzy grew, one question dominated every comment section: did Mona and Michelle really plan this from the start? The possibility that they had staged every moment, every tear, and every confrontation for strategic gain turned a private fallout into a public spectacle. Even other cast members began dropping hints. One tweeted, "Some people will do anything for a headline." Another posted a cryptic message: "When the boss calls, you answer, but sometimes the call costs more than the check." The entire love and hip-hop world seemed to be bracing for another explosion, because if that call was real, then Rasheeda's silence wasn't just anger. It was the calm before she decided to finally speak, and possibly bring everything Mona built crashing down. By the end of that week, all eyes were back on Rasheeda's page. Fans flooded her last post, begging her to say something. Industry insiders whispered that she'd been filming something of her own, not for VH1, but for a streaming documentary exposing how reality TV really works behind the scenes. Whether true or not, the rumor alone sent shockwaves through the cast. Mona reportedly called a closed-door meeting with her PR team to get ahead of the narrative, but the truth was slipping beyond her control. For the first time in years, Mona wasn't the one writing the story, Rasheeda was. And if the whispers were true, what came next would shake not just love and hip-hop, but the entire reality TV industry. Weeks after the leaked call sent shockwaves through the industry, Rasheeda finally reappeared, but not on television. Instead, she released a cryptic teaser across her social media pages. A dimly lit shot of her reflection in a makeup mirror, overlaid with the words "My Truth, coming soon." There was no caption, no hashtags, and no mention of love and hip-hop. Within hours, the post went viral. Fans speculated it was a new music video, a brand deal, or a silent message to Mona. But insiders whispered that it was something far deeper. A documentary Rasheeda had quietly been producing, exposing the manipulation, power plays, and emotional toll behind the glossy chaos of reality TV. When the trailer dropped a week later, the internet stopped. The footage opened with Rasheeda sitting alone in an empty studio, her voice steady but raw. "I gave years of my life to a story that wasn't mine," she said. "Now I'm telling it my way." The clip flashed unseen moments from behind the scenes, producers whispering, off-camera, crew members exchanging looks, and blurred out figures who looked suspiciously like Mona and K. Michelle in tense discussions. The tagline appeared next: "You've seen the show, now see the truth." Mona's camp immediately went into crisis mode. Network lawyers reportedly tried to stop the release, claiming contractual violations and defamation concerns. But Rasheeda had anticipated that. According to one associate, she had legally cleared her footage, using only recordings and clips from her own experiences. She wasn't attacking anyone directly, she was telling her story. The premiere was streamed independently and drew more viewers than the last Love and Hip Hop reunion special. In the film, Rasheeda detailed how producers allegedly planted rumors, encouraged conflicts, and edited moments to twist narratives. She revealed private texts showing cast members being promised extra screen time in exchange for confronting her or discussing her marriage. One particularly explosive segment hinted that Mona and K. Michelle had discussed a storyline pivot during the exact time frame of their supposed secret meeting. The implication was clear. Her humiliation had been orchestrated for ratings. The backlash was instant. Fans who once laughed at Rasheeda's on-screen tears now apologized under her posts. Former castmates started backing her claims, hinting at their own experiences. K. Michelle initially clapped back online, calling it a bunch of edited nonsense, but soon deleted her posts when the documentary gained traction. The pressure mounted on Mona, who found herself facing questions from media outlets about her ethics and influence. She responded calmly during an interview, saying, "Reality TV is about reality, not perfection. Everyone signs up for that." But her composed tone couldn't hide the unease in her eyes. Behind the scenes, VH1 executives were reportedly furious. They had never seen a former star turn public opinion so sharply. Viewers began calling for Rasheeda's return, not as a cast member, but as a producer of her own show. Meanwhile, the network's ratings dropped sharply after Rasheeda's documentary aired. Some advertisers pulled back, uncomfortable with being linked to what fans now labeled emotional exploitation. As the noise grew, Rasheeda stayed quiet again, letting the film speak for her. For her, it was no longer about revenge. It was about reclaiming her voice from a machine that had once defined her. The final scene of her documentary showed her standing outside a closed studio gate, saying softly, "You can't edit who I am anymore." The words hit harder than any scripted moment could. And in that silence, as viewers reflected on everything they'd seen, one question remained. Had Mona Scott finally met the one storyline she couldn't control? Because while Mona was busy crafting television drama, Rasheeda had done something far more dangerous. She had told the truth, and the world had listened. And as the dust finally settles on this unbelievable storm, one thing is certain: nothing in the love and hip-hop world will ever be the same again. Rasheeda's calm defiance, Jasmine's fragile redemption, and Mona's unshakable silence have left millions of fans questioning everything they once believed about reality TV. What was scripted, what was real, and what was sacrificed for the sake of ratings? The blurred line between truth and performance has never looked so haunting. This story didn't just entertain, it exposed the raw humanity behind the fame, the tears no one saw, the phone calls that never made it on air, the quiet moments where friendships broke and loyalties collapsed. People thought Rasheeda was done, but she turned her pain into power. and her silence into a story that shook the entire industry. Jasmine, once dismissed as a scandal's shadow, found herself facing redemption she never expected, and Mona, the mastermind behind every headline, learned that even the strongest producer can lose control of the narrative once the cast begins to write their own. So now it's your turn. The viewers who've watched every episode, every confession, every reunion fight. What do you believe? Was Rasheeda right to go public and reclaim her truth? Or did she cross a line by taking the cameras where they were never meant to go? Was Jasmine's apology genuine, or just another scene in a never-ending act? And what about Mona, the architect of reality TV's biggest empire? Is she a genius storyteller or a puppet master whose strings finally snapped? Tell us what you think, because this story is far from over. Drop your thoughts below and join the conversation. Your voice decides where this drama goes next. Do you want to see Rasheeda start her own show and tell the unfiltered side of love and hip-hop? Do you think Mona will fight back with another explosive season? Or is this the end of an era? The moment the audience finally demanded the truth behind the glitter and the gossip. If you've been watching since the beginning, you know this franchise isn't just TV, it's a mirror of ambition, heartbreak, and survival. And after everything that's come to light, it's time to ask whether fame is worth the price these women have paid. If you were in Rasheeda's place, would you have stayed silent? Or would you have done exactly what she did and shown the world what really happens behind the scenes? Make sure you hit that like button if you were shocked by tonight's revelations. And subscribe if you want to stay ahead of every new twist before it hits the blogs. Because the truth is, this story isn't ending, it's evolving. Every week brings a new leak, a new alliance, a new betrayal waiting to surface. And when it does, you know we'll be right here breaking it all down first. So keep your notifications on, because this saga is only getting wilder. New footage, unseen text messages, and quiet meetings are already stirring behind the scenes. And you won't believe who's involved next. Some say Rasheeda's documentary was only part one. Others whisper that Jasmine has her own version ready to drop. And if that's true, the next chapter could change everything all over again. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey through truth, betrayal, and survival in the spotlight. Your engagement keeps these stories alive, your comments shape the next headline, and your reactions make this community what it is. A place where no secret stays hidden for long. Stay tuned, stay curious, and never forget that in this world of fame and fire, every friendship, every rumor, every whispered meeting has a story behind it, waiting to be told. Click that subscribe button, share this video, and tell us in the comments, who do you believe, Rasheeda, Jasmine, or Mona? Because when the cameras stop rolling, it's your voice that decides who really wins. It's your voice that decides who really wins.